In a city that wakes to birdsong and sleeps beneath quiet streetlights, evil doesn't wait for the dark. A homeless man executed downtown, a mother found bound and burned in her own home, and a retired police captain gunned down protecting a store. Each act carved fear into Street Lewis's calm, and though the killers now serve their time, the ghosts of their victims still haunt every corner of the city. And this is Inside Street Lewis's Most Dangerous Black Killers, Shocking Murders, and True Crime Documentary. Welcome back to Justice Reversed, where real crimes meet real justice. Number 1. Deshaun Thomas. On a quiet Monday morning in downtown Street Lewis, a single gunshot broke the routine hum of city life, and within seconds, an execution was captured on camera. The victim, 40-year-old David Saldana, a homeless man known around North Tucker Boulevard, had argued moments earlier with 23-year-old Deshaun Thomas at a nearby gas station. Witnesses saw the dispute spill into the street. When Saldana tried to walk away, Thomas followed, gun in hand. Surveillance and bystander videos later revealed chilling precision. Thomas paused, reached into his jacket for a magazine, calmly reloaded, and fired a single round into Saldana's head. The sound of the shot, and a witness screaming, "He just F***ing killed him," would echo across social media within hours. Police said the shooting happened just after 10 a.m. outside the Street Lewis Convention Center, in full view of traffic and pedestrians. Within hours, the footage had gone viral, described by national outlets as one of the most disturbing execution-style murders ever caught on camera in broad daylight. Detectives used surveillance footage to retrace Thomas's path through downtown. By afternoon, a patrol officer spotted him entering the Street Lewis Public Library. He was arrested quietly outside, carrying a handgun and a spent shell casing. Prosecutors charged him with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. In court, Thomas appeared disoriented, his demeanor flat. His attorney said he suffered from mental illness, drug dependency, and homelessness. "This is not a monster," the lawyer argued, "but a man who's been broken by the streets." The judge denied bond, citing the brutality of the act and the overwhelming video evidence. By early 2025, Circuit Judge Craig Higgins ruled Thomas unfit to stand trial. The case was suspended and moved to the mental inactive docket. He was remanded to the Missouri Department of Mental Health for evaluation every 6 months to determine if he might regain competency. No sentence has been issued. Legally, the case remains frozen in time. The killing shocked Street Lewis residents and reignited a national debate over urban safety and mental health-related violence. Major Ryan Cousins of the Street Lewis Metropolitan Police called the crime deeply unnerving. Broad daylight, downtown, surrounded by witnesses. Local shop owners described chronic lawlessness at the nearby Shell station, which had seen multiple shootings since 2019. U.S. Senator Josh Hawley publicly condemned the city's handling of crime, declaring, "Street Lewis deserves justice, not excuses." Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner defended her office, calling political attacks vitriolic and racially charged. In the months that followed, the police department expanded patrol zones, installed mobile cameras, and added bike units to restore a sense of security downtown. Out of this tragedy came painful reminders. First, conflict escalation can turn lethal in seconds. Walk away before anger decides for you. Second, never record violence without calling for help. Intervention can save lives. Third, mental health crises left untreated can lead to irreversible loss. In the end, one man lost his life, another lost his mind, and a city was left questioning what humanity had just witnessed. Before moving on, if this truth hits you, press hype stand with the forgotten, amplify justice, and make sure silence never buries the voices of the lost. Number 2. Cornelius M. Green. A respected principal hid a deadly secret, a plan that would destroy 2 innocent lives forever. Cornelius M. Green, then 34, was the principal of Carr Lane Visual and Performing Arts Middle School in Street Lewis. On paper, he was a respected educator, a man of responsibility. Behind the scenes, he led a double life. He was married, yet carried on an affair with Jocelyn Peters, a 30-year-old elementary school teacher. She was 7 months pregnant, and prosecutors later confirmed Green was the father of the unborn child. When she refused to end the pregnancy, Green decided she and the child had to die. In early 2016, Green contacted his longtime friend from Oklahoma, Philip Cudler, and offered him money to carry out the killing. On March 7, Green mailed Cutler $2,500 in cash, money he had stolen from the very school he ran. The package bore the school's return address, a detail that would later help investigators unravel the case. 2 weeks later, Cutler traveled to St. Louis and stayed with Green. To build an alibi, Green booked a train ticket to Chicago, leaving Cutler with his car and the keys to Jocelyn's apartment. In the early hours of the 24th of March 2016, Cutler drove to the apartment on West Pine Street. Prosecutors said he entered quietly, walked into her bedroom, and shot her once in the head as she slept. A potato had been fitted to the gun's barrel to muffle the sound. Moments later, Cutler called Green. The job was done. Green returned from Chicago the next morning, phoned 911, and pretended to have just discovered Jocelyn's body. Detectives immediately suspected something deeper. Surveillance records, phone data, and text messages between Green and Cutler revealed the conspiracy. In one exchange, Cutler asked if Green was sending the package, to which Green replied that it was already on the way. When investigators confirmed the package contained stolen school funds, the facade of the model principal collapsed. In 2022, both men were indicted in federal court for conspiracy to commit murder for hire and murder for hire. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Green pleaded guilty in February 2024. Under a plea deal, he accepted a life sentence in federal prison, avoiding a possible death penalty trial in state court. Standing before the judge, Green appeared hollow, his once composed demeanor replaced by exhaustion. The community mourned Jocelyn deeply. At her funeral, students and fellow teachers wept as they remembered her gentle nature and dedication to her class. The betrayal by a principal, someone entrusted with shaping young lives, left scars that reached far beyond the school walls. From this tragedy emerged 3 harsh lessons. Deception always leaves evidence, no matter how careful the plan. Intimate partners in distress deserve protection, not silence. And when moral failure meets power, the damage extends to every soul who once trusted that power. In the end, a teacher and her unborn child lost their lives, and a leader lost his humanity. Number 3. Anjuan Mosby. It began with a betrayal no family could ever prepare for, a man turning his gun on the twin sister of the woman he once called family. On the morning of the 20th of November 2024, in Clayton, Missouri, Michelle Hampton, a 40-year-old mother, was forced from her home and into her own car by Anjuan Mosby, 43. Mosby was dating Michelle's identical twin, Samantha Hampton. Prosecutors say greed drove the crime. Mosby had discovered Michelle was holding a $40,000 settlement for their brother, and he wanted the money. At about 7 a.m., Samantha arrived at Michelle's house to see her sister inside the car with Mosby. In panic, she followed her 2 children in the back seat, calling 911 as she trailed the vehicle. Moments later, gunfire erupted. Bullets shattered Samantha's window as Mosby fired toward her car, forcing her to stop the chase. Investigators later confirmed the shooting endangered the 2 children. Mosby then transferred Michelle into a stolen yellow Ram truck driven by his accomplice, Emmanuel Suarez, 36. What followed was a chilling sequence of forced withdrawals that turned the city into a trail of surveillance evidence. At a bank on Page Boulevard, Michelle tried to withdraw $10,000 but was allowed only $2,000. Another $1,000 was taken at a second bank on Lindell. The third attempt failed when bank staff demanded she come inside. Hours later, the yellow truck pulled into an alley on Greer Avenue. Prosecutors say Mosby let Michelle out, told her she could run, and when she didn't, he shot her multiple times. She died at the scene. The killing was captured on video. Detectives traced the suspects through a web of digital footprints. Samantha immediately identified Mosby as the likely abductor. AT&T cell data placed the yellow truck at key locations, and forensic testing on a water bottle and cigarette butt found inside the vehicle returned a DNA match to Suarez. When police cornered Mosby's car with spike strips, they found a rifle and narcotics inside. During interrogation, Mosby waived his Miranda rights and confessed to being in Michelle's car, firing at Samantha's vehicle, and killing Michelle. Mosby now faces 20 state charges, including first-degree murder, kidnapping, and armed criminal action. He is also charged federally with kidnapping resulting in death, an offense eligible for the death penalty. Suarez faces similar counts. Both are held without bond at the St. Louis City Jail, awaiting trial. The murder sent shockwaves through the community. Michelle's sister, Tamara Hampton, launched a GoFundMe to raise money for funeral costs and care for Michelle's daughter and nephews. And out of tragedy come warnings every viewer should remember: financial secrets can turn deadly when shared with the wrong people. Never underestimate signs of control or coercion in relationships, and when family loyalty blinds judgment, danger hides closest to home. One twin lost her life, another lost her faith in love, and a family lost its reflection forever. Number 4. Carl Mayberry. It began with a silence that lingered too long, a mother who stopped answering her phone, and a family that already feared the worst. On the 27th of December 2021, police were called to a home on Oregon Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri, for a welfare check. Inside, officers discovered 31-year-old Alvatine Thomas, a mother of 5, sitting lifeless in a chair. She had been shot in the back, a plastic bag taped tightly around her head, and bleach poured over her body. Her forehead was swollen, her ear severed, and her hands bore defensive wounds, signs she had fought desperately before she died. There were no signs of forced entry. Investigators quickly turned their focus to Carl Mayberry, Thomas's 34-year-old partner and the father of her youngest child. The relationship, family members later revealed, had been abusive for years. When questioned, Mayberry claimed he had been at work during the time of the murder, but co-workers contradicted his story. He had disappeared for several hours that day, returned in different clothes, and seemed emotionally distraught. The case went cold for months, then years. Behind the scenes, detectives built their case piece by piece through digital evidence. In a chilling discovery, Mayberry's cell phone history revealed searches made around the time of the killing. First-degree murder defenses and can he say, she say be used against a person for murder in Missouri. He even texted a criminal defense lawyer, asking how much it would cost to defend a murder. Prosecutors say Mayberry also sent a message to someone shortly after Thomas's death, describing that she had been found with a bag around her head, a detail known only to police. Detectives called it the turning point. But when investigators tried to present the evidence in 2022, then Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner's office failed to meet with them. The case stalled while Mayberry was held on unrelated federal charges. Under new leadership in 2025, prosecutors finally reviewed the evidence. On the 7th of May 2025, more than 3 years after the murder, Carl Mayberry was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. When police took him into custody, they found a loaded handgun hidden in his lunchbox, despite him being a convicted felon on federal probation. He now awaits trial at the St. Louis City Justice Center, held without bond. Thomas's family called the arrest both a relief and a heartbreak. Her sister, Dewana Coleman, told reporters, "I already knew he had a part in it. Nobody else would do that to her." Another sister, Chanice Johnson, expressed anger at the delay, saying, "She's gone, and we'll never get her back. The kids will never see her again." From a single act of silence to years of delay, this case leaves behind more than one victim. Silence in abusive relationships can turn fatal. Digital footprints reveal more than any alibi, and justice delayed still leaves wounds that never close. In the end, 5 children lost their mother and a city was reminded that hidden violence always leaves visible scars. Number 5. Stephen Cannon. He left home to protect a friend's business and never came back. On the night of the 2nd of June 2020, as protests and riots spread through St. Louis following the death of George Floyd, 77-year-old David Dorn, a retired police captain, received an alarm alert from Lee's Pawn and Jewelry, a store owned by a longtime friend. For decades, Dorn had checked on the shop whenever trouble arose. That night, his sense of duty led him straight into chaos. Around 2 a.m., Stephen Cannon, then 24, joined a group of looters breaking into the pawn shop. Surveillance footage captured Cannon and others stealing televisions and electronics. Moments later, Dorn arrived, standing in the middle of the darkened street with his weapon drawn, firing warning shots to disperse the crowd. Prosecutors later said Cannon moved to a corner with a handgun, took aim, and fired 10 rounds. Dorn collapsed onto the sidewalk, bleeding beneath the flicker of neon lights. A bystander streamed the aftermath live on Facebook. His voice shook as he begged, "Stay with me, OG," before whispering, "all over some TVs." The video spread worldwide, symbolizing the grim intersection of protest, violence, and loss. Dorn died where he fell, a public servant ending his life in the line of duty once again. Detectives moved swiftly. Inside Cannon's residence, police recovered a stolen television matching the shop's inventory, shell casings from a 9mm handgun, and surveillance footage linking him to the break-in. After police released the images, Cannon cut his hair to avoid recognition. He later admitted being inside the pawn shop but denied firing the fatal shots. The trial in July 2022 lasted 3 days. Prosecutor Marvin Tier Jr. told jurors that Cannon acted with deliberation, describing the murder as a decision made in calm calculation amid chaos. The defense argued there was no direct physical evidence tying Cannon to the gun and accused investigators of tunnel vision. The prosecution's key witness, Mark Jackson, who drove the getaway car, testified that Cannon later bragged, saying, "It went down at Lee's." After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Stephen Cannon guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder, armed criminal action, and burglary. On the 5th of October 2022, Judge Teresa Counts Burke sentenced him to life in prison without parole. Wearing a gray suit, Cannon stood silent before telling Dorn's family, "I'm sorry for what happened, but I didn't kill him." His attorney promised an appeal. Dorn's widow, Ann Dorn, a retired officer herself, wept as she said, "Justice has been served, but the pain never leaves." His daughter Lisa added, "He was protecting the city even after retirement. It's undeniable who did this." From this tragedy emerge lasting warnings. First, chaos invites destruction faster than justice can follow. Second, one reckless act can erase a lifetime of service. Third, morality collapses when greed overshadows conscience. These truths remind us that every moment of disorder tests the line between humanity and violence. In the end, David Dorn stood to defend peace and became its final witness. Number 6. Martino Lewis. It began with the sound of an argument that neighbors hoped would fade, but instead, it ended in a single gunshot that changed everything. On the night of the 24th of April 2025, police were called to a quiet neighborhood on Grace Avenue in Afton, Missouri. Inside the small home, 25-year-old Kelsey Elam, a black transgender woman, had been shot by her 21-year-old boyfriend, Martino Lewis. What began as a domestic dispute escalated into a fatal act of violence that would spark heartbreak and outrage throughout the St. Louis community. Around 11:15 p.m., neighbors overheard shouting from the couple's home. Moments later, an eyewitness saw Lewis punch Elam in the face, a blow so strong that she began bleeding from her mouth. Shaken and afraid, Elam reportedly told the witness she feared Lewis was about to retrieve her gun and begged them to call 911. While the witness was still on the phone with emergency dispatchers, a gunshot rang out. Seconds later, Lewis ran from the house and sped away in Elam's car. Paramedics arrived to find Kelsey gravely wounded. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, where she was later pronounced dead. Lewis would later try to mislead investigators, claiming that Elam had been shot while they were driving together and that he had taken her to the hospital himself. Police quickly disproved the story. The evidence, blood patterns, the location of the body, and eyewitness testimony showed the shooting happened inside the house. Detectives from the St. Louis County Police Department tracked Lewis to the city within hours. When he was arrested, he was still driving Elam's vehicle. Lewis admitted that a physical altercation had taken place, but denied intending to kill her. Prosecutors charged him the following day with second-degree murder, third-degree domestic assault, and armed criminal action. His bond was set at $400,000 cash only, with no option for release. The family's pain deepened when Kelsey's mother, Calvinita Brock, had to clean her daughter's room less than 2 days after the murder. Through tears, she described what she saw, all that blood and brains. It didn't seem real. She said Kelsey had always supported Lewis, even financially, and could not understand how the man her daughter loved could turn on her. Kelsey's sister, Zeoriah Moton, called her a light, funny, outspoken, and kind to everyone she met. Friends and activists in the LGBTQ+ community mourned her loss, describing it as part of a larger epidemic of violence against black transgender women in America. Reports noted Kelsey was the 7th transgender person killed in 2025, and the 5th black trans woman on that list. From this tragedy emerge unflinching lessons. Abuse often begins quietly before turning deadly. Love cannot survive where control replaces respect, and silence in moments of fear can cost a life. These warnings remind us that recognizing danger early and speaking out can save someone else's tomorrow. In the end, Kelsey's final words on social media have captured what violence took away: I'm finally happy being me. Number 7. Demisha Coleman. It began as an act of desperation that spiraled into irreversible tragedy. What started as an attempt to reclaim stolen property ended with 2 lives lost and 1 woman in prison. On the evening of the 21st of December 2022, 35-year-old Demisha Coleman from Spanish Lake, Missouri, tracked her stolen Hyundai Tucson SUV to a speedy gas station on North Broadway in St. Louis. Using her vehicle's GPS, she located it parked beside a pump and decided to confront those inside. The SUV contained 4 men. With her 19-year-old son and another armed acquaintance, Coleman approached the vehicle, determined to take it back herself. Earlier that night, Coleman had called 911 twice, some reports say 3 times, pleading for police help. When officers didn't arrive fast enough, she took matters into her own hands. Surveillance footage later showed her walking toward the Hyundai with a firearm raised. She opened the front passenger door and fired the first shots. In seconds, the confrontation became a gunfight. Bullets tore through the vehicle and across the gas station parking lot. When the gunfire stopped, 19-year-old Darius Jackson, a passenger in the Hyundai, was dead. Another man, 49-year-old Joseph Farrar, who had simply stopped to buy flu medicine for his sick son, lay nearby with a fatal wound to his torso. A third man was shot in the head but survived. Coleman fled the scene but was arrested shortly afterward. In her recorded police interview, she admitted to tracking the stolen car and carrying a gun to recover it. Detectives later confirmed the gunfight through surveillance footage. It was never proven whether the men inside the vehicle were the original thieves. Prosecutors charged Coleman with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of armed criminal action, and 1 count of first-degree assault. During her trial in March 2025, her defense argued she had acted out of fear when one of the men pointed a gun at her. The jury acquitted her of first-degree murder but found her guilty of first-degree involuntary manslaughter and armed criminal action. On the 5th of May 2025, a judge sentenced her to 13 years in prison, reflecting 9 years for manslaughter and 4 for armed criminal action. At sentencing, Coleman, now 37, appeared tearful but composed, telling the court she never intended for anyone to die. The case ignited intense debate online. Some sympathized with her frustration, saying, "I don't condone violence, but I understand her anger." Others condemned the recklessness, calling it proof of what happens when citizens lose faith in law enforcement. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore summarized the tragedy bluntly: "This case underscores the danger of taking justice into your own hands. 3 lessons endure from this case. Emotions can distort judgment faster than fear fades. 1 moment of vigilante justice can destroy lives, and no property is worth the cost of human life." In the end, a stolen car was recovered, but at the expense of 2 innocent men and 1 woman's freedom. Number 8. Vanya J. Jones. It began with screams behind a small house and ended with silence no child should ever hear. On the afternoon of the 23rd of April 2025, police in St. Louis responded to one of the most disturbing crimes of the year. Inside a modest home on Farland Avenue, they found the bodies of 35-year-old Christina Lynn Rentschler. She was shot to death, and several of Rentschler's young daughters had witnessed the killing. The suspect, 28-year-old Vanya J. Jones, was arrested hours later and charged with 17 felonies, including 2 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of child endangerment. According to investigators, Jones had been staying at the home when an argument broke out. At some point, he allegedly pulled out a firearm and shot another woman inside the house, critically injuring her. That woman later told police she survived by pretending to be dead, lying motionless on the floor while listening to Jones move through the rooms. As she lay there, she heard him ask the children, "Where's your mother?" Moments later, the children, 5 in total, ages 2 to 10, watched as Jones approached their mother and fired multiple rounds, including a fatal shot to the back of her head. Christina was several months pregnant, and the medical examiner confirmed that the unborn child died as a result of her injuries. The surviving victim was rushed to the hospital, conscious but gravely wounded. Her testimony became crucial in reconstructing what happened inside that home. Detectives quickly identified Jones as the suspect. He initially denied involvement, claiming to have been elsewhere at the time of the shooting. But when police questioned the person he said he was with, that witness contradicted him, saying Jones had confessed, admitting he just killed the woman. Officers arrested him soon after and recovered evidence linking him to the crime. Prosecutors described the attack as heinous due to the level of violence and the children's direct exposure to it. Jones was no stranger to the criminal justice system. Records show multiple prior felony convictions, including a 2023 assault, and he had absconded from federal supervision when the murders occurred. Held without bail, he now faces 2 murder charges, 1 attempted murder charge, 8 counts of armed criminal action, and 5 counts of child endangerment. As of May 2025, Jones had not yet secured legal representation and remained incarcerated awaiting trial. A GoFundMe page was created to support Rentschler's children, who were left traumatized and without their mother. The community expressed shock and sorrow. Neighbors described Christina as a caring mother who did everything for her kids, while local advocates called for more protection for families trapped in cycles of domestic violence. From this tragedy emerged painful lessons. Violence within the home leaves no witnesses unscarred. Ignoring early signs of danger can destroy generations, and accountability delayed often becomes justice denied. These reminders echo far beyond one crime scene. In the end, 5 children were left with memories no child should carry, and a question no one could answer: why? Number 9. Dawan Ferguson. It began with a phone call about a carjacking, but behind that call lay a story far darker than anyone imagined. On the 11th of June 2003, Dawan Ferguson told police his SUV had been stolen with his 9-year-old son, Christian, inside. The boy, who suffered from a rare genetic disorder called citrullinemia, could not walk or talk and depended on a strict medical regimen to survive. Without his medication, doctors said he could die within 2 days. But as investigators soon discovered, the carjacking was a fabrication, and the real tragedy had already happened long before that call. Christian had lived under Dawan's full custody since 2001. Nurses described visiting a home that smelled of urine, where Christian lay in double-soaked diapers and rarely received food or medication. One nurse recalled buying him clothes and meals herself. Pharmacy records later showed prescriptions going unfilled for months at a time, some as long as a year. When Christian's mother, Theda Person, last saw him, she said he appeared lethargic, bumping into things. Just days before his disappearance, a judge had ordered Dawan to resume visitations she had been denied for months. According to testimony from Dawan's daughter, she saw her father take Christian into another room the night before he vanished and heard struggling and moaning. For 15 years, she kept silent, later revealing she had been abused and coerced to lie. The next morning, Dawan called 911 from a payphone near a gas station, despite owning a cell phone, and claimed his Ford Expedition had been carjacked on the way to the hospital. When the vehicle was found hours later, it was unlocked, keys still in the ignition, and parked near the home of his girlfriend, whose car had been seen near the payphone. The investigation grew cold, but suspicions never faded. In 2019, detectives reopened the case, uncovering new witness statements. One woman said Dawan had confessed to her, claiming Christian was dead before the 911 call. Another recalled asking what happened to the boy, to which he replied, "You know me, I had to do what I had to do." Nearly 2 decades after Christian's disappearance, prosecutors charged Dawan Ferguson with first-degree murder. At his 2022 trial, they argued Christian had been neglected to death, calling the carjacking story a cover for murder. The defense insisted he was a loving father and that the state's case relied on rumors and theories. But after 3 weeks of testimony, a St. Louis County jury found him guilty. Judge Brian May sentenced Ferguson to life without parole. During sentencing, Ferguson spoke for 40 minutes, denying responsibility. The judge responded coldly, "You didn't even show the decency we show a dog. This was your child." 3 lessons linger from this case. Neglect can kill long before violence does, lies can delay justice, but they cannot erase it, and silence, especially from those who see suffering, becomes complicity. In the end, Christian's body was never found, but the truth his father buried was unearthed at last. Number 10. Marvin Bird. It started as a Saturday meant for college football and ended with one man lying dead on the pavement. On the 6th of September 2025, police in St. Louis responded to reports of gunfire on Henner Avenue in the Walnut Park East neighborhood. They found 58-year-old Dwayne Thomas lying in the street with gunshot wounds. Nearby stood his roommate, 54-year-old Marvin Bird, who had placed his Sig Sauer P320 handgun on the ground and was waiting beside his car. Thomas was rushed to the hospital, but he was pronounced dead soon after arrival. The two men had been roommates for years, sharing a modest home and, according to investigators, a growing sense of tension. That afternoon, they planned to attend a small gathering to watch a college football game. But before they could leave, an argument erupted. Witnesses told police the fight centered on money. Bird was angry that Thomas hadn't been contributing enough to the household or to their shared recreational drug use. The dispute moved outside, where Bird allegedly pulled out his gun and fired. When officers arrived, Bird initially resisted arrest, fighting against being handcuffed before finally surrendering. Detectives later noted that he appeared agitated and intoxicated. Once read his Miranda rights, Bird gave several conflicting accounts. At first, he said Thomas had charged at him, then claimed the shooting was an accident. Later, he admitted it stemmed from a long buildup of frustration with his roommate. An eyewitness confirmed hearing gunfire and seeing Bird standing over the victim holding the weapon. No other gun was recovered at the scene. Surveillance video from a nearby doorbell camera helped corroborate the sequence of events. Investigators found that Bird, a convicted felon, was not legally permitted to own a firearm, a factor that added to the gravity of the charges against him. St. Louis prosecutors charged Bird with first-degree murder, armed criminal action, unlawful possession of a firearm, and resisting arrest. He was booked into the St. Louis City Justice Center without bond and is awaiting trial. His next court appearance was scheduled for September 15, but as of the latest updates, no verdict or sentence had been reported. The case drew quiet but somber attention within the neighborhood. Many residents described it as a grim reminder of how quickly ordinary frustrations can turn deadly. One man who lived nearby told reporters, "They argued a lot, but nobody thought it would end like this." From this case come sobering lessons. Unresolved tension can become a weapon when paired with access to firearms. Financial stress mixed with substance use can erode judgment and empathy, and anger left unchecked often turns tragedy from preventable to permanent. Each moment of silence before violence carries the potential to save a life, if only someone chooses to listen. In the end, a night meant for football became a night of loss, a reminder that in some homes, the most dangerous rivalry isn't on television but within the walls themselves. Each story in this documentary peeled back another layer of St. Louis's darkest truths: betrayal, greed, rage, and silence, where choices made in seconds reshaped lives forever. But these are only some of the city's most chilling crimes. Many more remain untold, buried beneath headlines and forgotten files. If you want to go deeper into the twisted reality behind America's most